guys, this is Csilla, and you are watching Csilla TV, the place for soulful music and inspiration to design and live the life that you love. Today's episode is a very special one. This week I had the opportunity and honor to interview someone who is an expert in the music business. Bobby Borg is a former major label, independent and DIY recording, touring artist with over 25 years of experience. A graduate of Berklee College of Music with a BA in Professional Music and UCLA Extension with a certificate in Marketing Management and Project Management, he served as a music business educator at Musicians Institute in Hollywood and at the University of Los Angeles in California. And he also arranges educational programs with institutions overseas. As a music business and AR consultant to managers, labels, and supervisors, Borg is also a prominent guest speaker at music industry events and a regular contributor to international music business publications. He is the author of Billboard Books bestseller, The Musician's Handbook, a practical guide to understanding the music business. And he's also the author of Music Marketing for the DIY Musician. Borg was elected Vice President of Special Events for the American Marketing Association in Los Angeles and was awarded the Volunteer of the Year. He now lives in Los Angeles, California, and his website is bobbyborg.com. So without any further ado, I give you Bobby Borg. I really appreciate you saying yes to the interview. I feel honored, really. I know that you're very busy, and so I really appreciate you taking the time. And what I thought we could talk about today, first of all, is your book, which I have right here.
Okay.
And I have read it twice, and I'm working through it the second time. I'm actually putting my portfolio together. But I mean, it's an excellent book. I don't think I have read anything like it until this point. So I would highly recommend it to anybody. And that's why I thought it would be great if you could talk a little bit about what inspired you to write it, or why you wrote it, or who you wrote it for. And then maybe after that you can just talk a little bit of, like, give maybe three top suggestions for people that are starting out.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a great agenda for today. So we'll just tackle one thing at a time.
Yeah. So if you could maybe talk a little bit about the book first.
Okay, sure. And first of all, I want to say thank you very much. It's a pleasure to also do this interview as well. I'm excited to do it. I've been preparing for it. I shaved for it and everything.
You look good.
Actually, since the last time we talked, I lost my razor, so this might be different.
I saw that on Facebook.
Right. So, in any case, so we'll start. What inspired me to write the book? Music marketing for the DIY musician. Well, it's a long process, because obviously I was a DIY musician. I think even before the term DIY musician was even kind of being thrown around as much as it's being thrown around today. When I was a DIY musician, we didn't even have the tools that are available to people today. It was actually even pre-internet days. Mm-hmm. So do it yourself. I mean, it was, literally licking envelopes and stuffing them, stuffing envelopes with posters and then licking them, sometimes as much as hundreds, if not thousands, and sending them to fans. And then following up by calling the fans and asking them to vote for us on MTV, or to vote for us, or to call their favorite radio station and request our songs. And we'd give them lists of radio stations and things like this. So, just by virtue of living it and experiencing it, you're already saying to yourself, wow, I should write down these ideas and share them with other musicians, so, they don't maybe have to figure it out like I did. I can kind of offer that to them, so that maybe I can make their lives a little bit easier. In the meantime, it kind of excites you, like when you figure stuff out, you're like, let me share it with others, So I've been really writing it for a while. There's a lot of confusing things out there that musicians need to know about. So really, the idea has kind of been brewing inside for a long time. So the reason why I was inspired to write the book and really kind of set out to do this recently, and it actually turned into this big project, was because I noticed that now in this day and age, with all of the new tools that are available, there were just so many people that were just so confused about which tools to use. And the fact that they were putting the tools even before a lot of other preliminary things really kind of raised the question, hey, you guys, it's not about, whether or not you use, CD Baby or TuneCore or the Orchard. It's about other things first, like, your song,
your vision.
things of that nature, your vision, like what are you even trying to do? So I really found the need in the marketplace. There's really a need more than ever for people to really understand core marketing essentials and to kind of put it into this really well organized way where there's templates and they can follow along and learn about marketing one step at a time. So that's what the inspiration was. It comes from a long history of doing it myself. And then, of course, as the years progressed onward, and I started to see, now we're living this age of technology. I mean, that more than ever, it had to be written. And I was the perfect person to write it.
I mean, it just can be so overwhelming. The technology, I mean, it's very helpful, but you don't really know where to start. And it can be very overwhelming. So.
Yeah, that's why, I want people to know that, it's not necessarily the tools. You have to do the right things. It's not about just doing things right. It's about doing the right things in the first place. And I think people were starting to put, as the expression is, the cart before the horse. They were worrying about, which service should I use before, are my songs any good? So that was really the idea behind it.
Yeah. And I have to say that I just love how strategic it is, the book. And it really, like, you have to lay the groundwork. And for me, what it was helpful is that I already kind of knew what my vision was, but it really helped me hone in even more and become very, very specific. And also, I just love the samples that you give for every single chapter, because that really helped me start somewhere and then build on that. So that's very helpful.
Oh, great. I'm loving to hear all these things because they didn't happen by accident. These are all things that were really, really well researched, which is something that we'll speak about later. But while we're on the topic, marketing is a lot about research. And these things that you're mentioning, I'm delighted to hear, but it's no surprise simply because prior to actually even releasing the book, I tested the book on my intended audience, and admittedly, I didn't have samples at the end of every chapter. These were suggestions by people like you. Wouldn't it be great if there were samples at the end of every chapter? So in other words, it's very, very important to listen to your customers and listen to what your customers want. Your customers in our business being fans, of course, or potential fans. You have to listen to what they want, and then you have to give them what they want. Of course, it still has to be all aligned within your vision and what you're passionate about, and it's got to be within your integrity or your boundaries of integrity. But I mean, essentially, these ideas that you're mentioning are things that I researched. So,
and you can tell that it's very well researched. I mean, just from reading it, you can tell that it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Say more. I love this for my.
I think what it is especially I think for us as musicians, we tend to want to kind of shove under the rug the business side of it, because we're thinking, we're artists. We don't want to think of ourselves as a business, but I think it is just like your book says. Many times you use the lingo of the business lingo, which I think is very important because we are a business in ourselves, and I think that we should see ourselves that way, because we will become more successful that way if we actually look at the business side of it as well. So, and that's
especially today. And you make a really, really good point. I mean, a lot of musicians do kind of. Well, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, it's the fantasy of the music business is just wonderful. It's like exciting, and we don't realize that even exciting businesses have the other side, which is the hard work. And people tend. I mean, I think just our society tends to glamorize the music industry. And we just see the kind of fun and the glamour and the excitement, but there's a whole lot of work that comes on the other side of it. And I specifically I was trying to kind of make the language very casual that would be, entertaining and educational at the same time. But, there were certain times where I said, you know what, I'm going to call it a company instead of a band or instead of your solo career, because they really need to think of it as that, So you're right. Business, music is an art. Making money from it is a very serious business. That's why they call it the music business.
Yeah. And it's, you said with the book is funny, actually. It's interesting how, like, it is a lot of information, a lot of detail in there, but I love how your humor comes across, and it's actually very entertaining. I love reading it, so you did a good job with that.
That's good. I thank you again. I think we have to, it's the entertainment business. We have to stay entertained. So, as reading, as when I was writing, I would obviously just kind of let it sit for a while, and then I would go back and read it myself. And I would ask myself, is this flowing? Okay. Is it okay maybe to throw a little joke in here? And even occasionally, being very cautious, not, and sensitive to others, but occasionally once in a while, there's a little bit of a slip of a bad word here and there.
I think we can handle it.
Most musicians can handle it, though. But, it's to emphasize the point.
And I think you do a great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important to laugh a little bit, right? Yeah. to laugh while we work. Yeah. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Okay, so to get on to our next point, because I know your time is precious, so I don't want to keep you too long. What would be the top 3 suggestions, or one, whichever you choose, top 1 or top 3 suggestions you would give out of the book for somebody who is just starting out? Where could they start?
Okay, well, we already gave away some of them, or at least one of them. So let me see. If I have to pick 3, and I'm not going to do it in the order that you should think about them. Let's just go with this first one that's on the top of my mind. Okay. A benefit to the customer, or to benefit to the fan. So when you're marketing and when you're promoting, always think of what is in it for the customer or for the person that you're actually trying to do business with. So when you're trying to get your track licensed in film and television, ask yourself what's in it for the person that you're pitching. And don't just say, they get my awesomeness. You have to really think of it from their shoes. Are you saving them time? Are you saving them money? How is your track perfect for reinforcing a particular scene in the film? Are you easy to work with? Are you quick? Try to get into the head of the person you're doing business with and really think, why should they do business with you? Like, what's in it for them? So that's very, very important, very, very important concept. When you are promoting your concert, when you're playing at a local venue, people have a habit of just, saying, my band, whatever the name is, playing tonight at the Roxy on Sunset Boulevard at 9:00, be there. My question is, why should I be there? What's in it for me? And people always seem to fail to actually sell that point. When you're Beyonce, it's clear why you should be there, but you're not Beyonce yet. So maybe at first what you need to do is really help remind people what's in it for them. A very, very important concept, a very simple concept, but extremely, extremely important. Okay, so that's one of the ones. I definitely have 3. I mean, I certainly have many more.
You probably could have a whole list.
Yeah, I've got a lot of them. So that's a very, very important one. So think about what your product and service is, and then ask yourself how and what way, what words can we use to really sell the point of what is in it for the customer. And it's very, very difficult to do this. You want to be careful not to be cheesy. Let me give you a quick example just to emphasize the point. If you are playing at a club, you might ask what's in it for the people that would come. So let's start with the most basic, right? How about convenient parking? How about it's a safe neighborhood? How about the fact that there's going to be, other entertainment there besides you. So what are the other 2 or 3 artists that are also going to be there, and what are their benefits? What does the club look like? Is it a nice club with a nice patio or just a very ambient kind of nice setting. How about the food? Are there any drink discounts if you partake in that and you drink? That's the basic stuff. Then if you could find the benefits about your music, what mood are you going to put me in? How are you going to make me feel when I leave the place? I mean, are you going to uplift my spirits? Are you going to make me feel more hopeful? Are you going to make me feel happy? What type of people am I going to meet at this event? And on and on and on. So that's a very, very important concept. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. You guys ready for two?
Yes, I am. I'm taking notes.
Okay. So here we go. Number two. So what is second thing? Uniqueness is extremely important. How are you unique from other artists that are other artists? I mean, from your competitors, let's just say. And I say that word carefully because everyone's like, I don't have any competitors, no one's doing what we do. But if you think about it, a competitor isn't just someone that's doing exactly what you do. It could be anyone that could take attention away from what you do. And that could really be lots of things. I mean, it could be yesterday there were the fights, right? Saturday night, we had those big fights on television. And, the boxing. I'm going to kind of date this video by accident, but this is being filmed the day after the big boxing match. It was called the Fight of the Century. Mm-hmm. And technically, if you were playing that night at the same time in the evening, you could have found yourself competing against a boxing match. Now, what does a boxing match have to do with hard rock music or a singer-songwriter? A lot. It's entertainment, and that one entertainment is taking away from another. So look for other artists in your geographic region or even nationally, on iTunes and things that might potentially take attention away from you. Try to pick two bigger artists and maybe two smaller artists, and then just kind of really investigate their strengths and weaknesses. What do they do really well that maybe you could do a little bit more of? And then what do you do, what do they not do at all, where you can find what's called a competitive advantage? You can really hone in on what makes you different. It could be where you're from. It could be the fact, let's just say, for example, that you are from another country and you are, let's just say, for example, Korean, and you're now in the United States and you have a dream of being a big pop star. Well, could the fact be that there's really not a whole lot of Korean pop stars in America? Could you actually be the first or one of the first, especially now that the world is becoming more global and people are being more aware of what's going on in the world around us for the most part, due to technology and things. So could that be an opportunity? Potentially, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really, really important. How are you different? Even if it's just the tiniest little thing, you have to really kind of hone in on that, okay? And if you don't mind, I'm going to use myself as an example really quick. So when I write these books, you asked, what inspired you? Another thing is that there were no other books that were written by a musician, for a musician, from someone that actually had a lot of experience. I'm signed. I was a signed recording artist myself, but was also an indie artist and also was a DIY artist. So there's not a whole lot of other books from people that have both the real world experience and also the academic experience to kind of be able to talk about these things. So there was a need in the marketplace, and that's what makes me unique, and that's what I push. I'm an artist, advocate for musicians. I help, music business professionals turn their art into a more successful business. That is my position, and it works well. So try to find what makes you different from all the other singer-songwriters or musicians out there. Okay, so that would be number two.
Uniqueness.
You guys ready for number three?
Yes.
Okay.
We are ready.
Well, I mean, there's so many. Which one should I pick that's really important? I mean, I think overall, first and foremost, let's talk about vision. It's the first thing I talk about in the book, and we talked about a little bit, but it's so important. Where is it that you want to go? So, what's the end game to all of this? So if you're here right now, where potentially do you see yourself being in 2021, or 2022, or even farther into the future than that, Let's just say, where do you see yourself being in 2025? I mean, it's 10 years seems a long way away from now. But you really kind of have to focus on what's the whole point of this. So I'm not saying to focus on you're going to have a winery and you're going to be retiring in the villa in Italy or something. That's not what I'm talking about. Where do you want to be with your career? It's really important to understand kind of where you're going and what you want to do, because once you have sort of a destination, it's much easier to get directions to get there. Okay, so I always give the example of using Google Maps or using MapQuest. If you try to type in the directions or you try to type in an address, it won't give you directions unless you have a really clear address. So, that's a very, very important concept. Now, with that said, we have to talk about the reality behind what your vision is. And that would basically be, are you thinking that you're going to be the next world's greatest, singer like Beyonce and
Celine Dion?
Sure, that works for me. That works for me too. So, whomever the artist be, whatever you're interested in being, you have to kind of ask yourself, I mean, what's the reality behind this? In other words, it's like, I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the reality of that? I mean, am I willing to put in the time to go to the school and to train? Am I even past the age where that's even possible? I mean, these are the hard reality things that we need to look at, and it's not for the purpose of discouraging. It's really encouraging. I mean, we want to pursue a career in reality, not in fantasy. Now, if you told me that, listen, just doing this brings me happiness and fulfillment, and I don't really care about reality. Denial is a wonderful place for me because I could just go off in my little room and just kind of fantasize and write and stuff, and it makes me feel good. And I don't want to hear people tell me this or that. Then that's one thing. That's fine. And that's fine because everyone has a right to do what they want with their lives. And it's especially fine if you have other ways to make income and you're not really worried about, finances or paying bills, or you don't have a family to support. But if you are an artist and you do want to share this with the world and you would like to maybe support yourself and maybe your loved ones as well by doing something you love, then we need to get a little bit more realistic. We need to kind of look out into the world and ask ourselves, what's going on? What does it require for me to be the next Celine Dion? How much training do I have? Is my vocals really good? Do I need to learn more how to write? Should I learn how to dress? Should I learn how to dance? Where can I find the best musicians? Am I in the right geographic region in order to get noticed? So this is really kind of like the process of taking your vision to the shrink, right? It's laying down on the couch and asking ourselves, what really is this idea about? And do I have the strengths, the weaknesses? What really is the opportunity here? And then, of course, what's the risks involved in pursuing this? Is there other competition? Is there, any proper visas we have to stay in the country? Let's just say, for example, these are all things that sometimes people just don't think about. And so it's important. The reason why we start with a vision is because you have to pursue something from your heart. Because when you pursue something from your heart, that's when you're going to get, the highest quality work. And that's when you're going to stick with things when the going gets tough. If you're not passionate about something, when things get tough, you're like, forget it, So Confucius once said, I love this quote, find something you love to do and you'll never work another day in your life, And so if music is that thing, then let's just, get clear about what it is we want and be willing to put in the necessary time. So to recap, we have the first one, a benefit.
Benefit to the customer.
That's right. Always sell the benefit to the customer, to the fan.
Audience.
What's in it for them? Right? Important.
Yeah.
So number 2,
uniqueness.
How
are we different?
Exactly. So how are you different from, from your competitor. So, in the marketplace, we might have many, many singers, right? We have Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, you have Beyonce, Madonna, whatever. And if I said to you, 5-octave range, you might say immediately Mariah Carey. She had that thing where she did, like, let me see if I can do it.
the whistle sound.
Whatever, you know what I'm talking about, that way up there.
Yeah,
I mean, the unique characteristic of her. So, I just say one thing, 5-octave vocal range, and automatically you might go, oh, Mariah Carey. Out of all the rock groups that exist in the world, if I said, 3-chord power rock, and, you might get close, but then if I said, wore a schoolboy outfit on stage, you might say AC/DC, So look at the just a couple of the little things. They're so tiny, but by saying them, you know who I'm talking about among thousands of bands. So what is that one thing that's going to define you? That's very, very crucial. Yeah. And then number 3 is what?
Is knowing our vision and really the end game of where we're going.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing what it is that you want, so it's easier to draw directions to get there. And then once you do kind of, think about what it is you want, then you kind of have to put that idea through, take that idea to the shrink, so to speak, take an external and internal evaluation of that idea, and really kind of look, do you have the strengths? And if you don't, let's turn them into strengths, and that's really, really important. Right?
And I love how in your book, you mentioned quite a few times, always to be awesome. The awesome factor. That when you're really good at it, when you market yourself, it's gonna speak for itself. Your work is gonna speak for itself. But if it's not good work, it also will fail just as fast. And I think just overall, just really pursuing being really excellent and awesome.
Yeah, and I know that sounds a lot easier said than done, but I think a lot of times that we kid ourselves. I mean, if you can recall back maybe when you were in school, we know when we really researched a book report that we were supposed to turn in. I mean, we know it. I mean, we might kind of throw it together the last night and turn it into the professor and just kind of hope they like it and we get away with it, or maybe they don't read it and they just mark us that we did it, But in the back of our mind, we know when we really turned every single book, went to the library, researched everything, edited it, typed it up perfectly, and turned it in. When you do good work, and when you don't. So always just try to do the best work you possibly can. And it's amazing what happens when you do that, Never skimp on the mix. Don't skip on, if you're flat, don't think that no one's going to notice it, Go back and redo it, And, in the meantime, there's a danger to that. And we don't want to be such perfectionists that you never get it right or never release stuff. There's a great quote, someone said it's the perfection of imperfection. So sometimes you kind of have to let little things go here and there, So, and of course, don't forget this is a building process. The first time you throw it out there, the second time you'll get better, and the third time you'll get better. So I'm not saying you have to write a masterpiece the first time you release it, but just generally the goal should always be to do quality work. So.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So thank you. Before we finish up, I was wondering what's next for you. Is there anything else happening, or what's going on in
Excellent
your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, since we're on the topic of music business education and books and the music industry, I do want to say that there's another book coming out called Business Basics for Musicians. And this is quite different from music marketing for the DIY musician, in that this focuses on 5 very important areas in the music business for artists. Or I believe it's 5. Yes. It is number 1, just, the process of pursuing a career in the music industry. So, I mean, getting motivated, getting into the right mindset. And then, of course, understanding the business relationships. Like, are you going to be a solo artist? Are you going to be in a partnership? Are you going to be just a contract employee or an independent contractor? Understanding SAG-AFTRA and union issues and things like that. Then it talks about deals and dollars, the proper deals that we have to have for music publishing, for merchandising, for record deals, and that type of thing. And talks about your professional team, managers, agents, lawyers, and then it talks about the future. So I think that's actually 5 sections or 6 sections, something like that. I only wrote the book. I don't know, 5 or 6. All good stuff. So it's more of the business side of music than it is the creative music marketing side. So those books are positioned, distinctly from each other. So that's what's going on. That's going to come out in September of 2015. So if you're watching this video after that, then it's already out on the shelves, or it's already out on Amazon, or available on my website, which is bobbyborg.com.
Which was going to be my next question. So your website is bobbyborg.com.
Yeah, and I'll spell it out because sometimes people get the last part wrong. So it's BOBBY, Bobby, and then Borg, BORG, as in George, right? And .com. So not Bobby Board. Hopefully it wasn't boring. It's Bobby Borg with a G. So.
Okay.
So yeah, and they can, there's free articles on there as well if people want to, check out some of the articles and stuff. And there's always updates, things that are happening, events, and that type of thing.
And you're also on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook. I think it's just Bobby Borg Consulting.
Yes.
I'm on Twitter, on YouTube. So lots of stuff out there.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I'll definitely be getting your next book as well, because I have nothing but good to say about this one. I would recommend it highly to anybody. It really is an excellent book and very, very helpful. So
excellent. I'm very happy with that.
And thanks so much for taking the time. I truly appreciate it. I know that you're very busy, and I so appreciate you taking the time answering my questions.
Yeah, of course. This was fun, and good luck with your career, because of course you're out there and you're trying to do your thing, and so wish the best of luck to that, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk some more too.
Yeah.